Hey guys, I am making a response video to Freelancer Equalizer. He had a post recently talking about how when people begin to become aware of what's going on behind the scenes and stuff. And no, it can be 100% aware of what's going on, but they see more than what the average person sees. They're awake. They're looking through the mask that people put on. They're living beyond just the redundancy of everyday life that everybody just kind of like in the mud, in the trenches doing. How when you start to do that, you actually start to become lonelier. So there's a sadness attached to it sometimes. And this is all true. So this is not a response like, oh, you're wrong. No, this is actually factually true. And this has been written about for over 3,000 years, this kind of phenomenon here. But I wanted to just make the post because the people who are watching these videos, you're probably feeling the same way. And I just want to warn against some potential pitfalls that we can walk into. And one of the biggest pitfalls that you can walk into is you start to idolize the loneliness as some kind of self image boost, right? That's this, oh, I'm so lonely because I'm so intelligent, right? That can definitely lead to problems, just not with the people around you, but with yourself, right? There's a lot of people that are at the top of, you look at the people at the top of their fields, like, especially in entertainment and stuff like that, where they end up committing suicide, and you're like, what in the world was that all about? You know, this guy was a comedian. Like, how many comedians do we know that commit suicide? And it's like, man, you were at the top of your game, you had everything, and you still committed suicide. Is because that loneliness got to them, right? And so we can't let, even though, yeah, you're seeing things that people don't see, you're looking through the mask, you get frustrated with people. That's the biggest thing, is you get frustrated with people like, why can't you see what I'm seeing? Why will you not listen to what I'm saying? Kind of thing. That kind of frustrates you, and it can give you a sense of ego. Your loneliness gives you a sense of ego, but that's actually destructive long term. So one, I wanted to warn against that. And two, just give an idea of what we can do if you are one of those people who try to look, beyond the mask and what you're told, and kind of, I call it balancing the books of life, which is the idea of an accountant, balancing the books of a business. Do the receipts line up with what's in the books? In this case here is, hey, do what I experience line up? I'm sorry, is what I'm being told lining up with what I'm experiencing, what I'm seeing, right? And when you start to balance those books and you realize, oh, the things I'm being told, we have a far different experience than what we're being told, right? And you kind of see past that. And so when you start to see past that and you start, making different decisions and stuff like that, it leads kind of to like this sorrow, this true sense of like loss. Like, oh man, I've lost kind of my innocence because now I understand the books, right? Which is terrible in some ways. And so I'm going to use the Bible, and this is not as a beating you over the head with the Bible. I'm using Ecclesiastes specifically to kind of give an idea of how Solomon dealt with this. This is the book of wisdom, so this is not actually Ecclesiastes. I call it the book of the doubter. So the people who have doubts about God, if you've never read the Bible and you have doubts about God, read Ecclesiastes, because that's the whole book. It's doubt, but he also makes a conclusion at the end after all of his doubt, his struggle with seeing things that other people can't see. Is God really true? I mean, what's the point of this life? He talks about everything, his vanity. He's like, I was king in Jerusalem and I had more than anybody else. And I looked out at all that my hands had done, the buildings I built, the gardens I planted. And it's like, for what point? What's the use? What's the point? Right? And he talks about, and then I got, I didn't withhold pleasures from myself. And, I did anything that I wanted to do. And then I look back and I was like, what is the point? what's the purpose behind it? And then he makes a conclusion. And so I'm going to use just real quick, it's going to be real short, but just kind of give you a different paradox to think about, or a different thought process to think about, so you don't end up in a situation where, just because you see beyond the mask don't mean you can't have a fulfilling life that's more than just this idolization of loneliness, right? But first, just to show that you are on the right path, this was written 3,000 years ago. This is what it says. This is Solomon speaking. Also Ecclesiastes. The reason why my page is called Lady Wisdom is Ecclesiastes is actually my favorite book in the Bible, and it's written in the feminine verb, as if Solomon, even though Solomon's writing it, he's presenting as like his mother's wisdom to him, right? This is how his mother kind of taught him. And if you look at any kind of ancient writing, a lot of people say, oh, the Bible's so misogynistic and all that kind of stuff. No, it's not. When you really dive into it, wisdom is always personified as a woman, right? And so women in the Bible tend to be the representation of wisdom, okay? And that's what Ecclesiastes is, and that's why I use Lady Wisdom as my page name, right? But I just want to start real quick in Ecclesiastes 1. Again, I recommend everybody read the book if you've never read a portion of the Bible and you just want to see some of the wisdom literature that's in here. Ecclesiastes 1, I'm going to start in verse 16 real quick. It says, I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were in Jerusalem before me. And my heart had great experiences of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom, to know madness, and to know folly. And I perceived that all of this was like striving after the wind. This is what he's talking about. It's like everything that I did just felt like I was chasing down the wind. You can't catch the wind. And if you could catch the wind, what would you do with it anyways? That's what he said. That's what life feels like to me. It's like I'm chasing down the wind. It's pointless, right? And look what he says. I perceived that this was all like striving after the wind. For in much wisdom there was much vexation. And those who increase their knowledge will increase their sorrow. This was written 3,000 years ago. Exactly what the entrepreneur, I'm sorry, I forgot the page I was replying to here, but I do apologize for that. Anyways, it's the exact same thing that you were saying in your video, right? That, man, this is like real sad. When you open up your eyes and you see things as real sad, that's what Solomon was saying, 3,000 years ago. To increase in knowledge is to increase your sorrows, right? Now we're just going to skip to the end to his conclusion. That's really the important part. And he gives an allegory almost of going here. He gives an allegory of how wheat goes from the grain, to the field, to the trade routes, right? And he's talking, that's kind of like how human life is. Human's life is like the seed of grain, it's kind of planted, it grows up, it's harvested, it's put into barrels, sent on ships, and sent across the seas to be traded to other countries. And that's how life is, human life is. And look at what he talks about as the conclusion. So he goes, this is chapter 11, you have 11 and 12 as the conclusion. He's getting ready to make a conclusion of all the things that he had learned and how frustrating it was throughout his life in the first 10 chapters, and how it was just frustrating and empty and he just felt worthless. And then he makes this conclusion. And he tells it in a story. This is what he says here. It says, cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 and to 8, for you do not know what disasters may happen on the earth. So this is for the people who, just like Solomon, see things differently than everybody else. And this is what he's saying. There's choices you have to make, even though you see this thing. Number one, life is short. This whole thing is about life is short, so make some investments, right? Life is short, make some investments. Cast your bread on the waters. This is actually talking about the grains being put into ships and sent out. Solomon's kingdom was built on grain, right? For you will find a return after many days. So this work of investing, you put it out there, you will get a return eventually. But give a portion to 7 or to 8, for you do not know what will happen on the earth. So he's saying, invest. Life is short. Take some risk. Life is short. Take some risk. But diversify your risk, right? Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. Verse 3, if the clouds are full of rain and empty themselves on the earth, and if a tree falls to the south or to the north, the place where the tree falls, there it is. What he's saying here is control your controllables. Life is short. Take some risk. Life is short. Diversify your risk. Life is short. Control your controllables. If a tree falls down into your field and crushes a portion of your grain, you can't do anything about that. Control your controllables. For he who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. I'm saying if you let life happen to you instead of you happen in life, you're not going to get anything out of it. Verse 5. As you do not know the way that the spirit comes into the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know all the works of God who makes everything. So it's like, what? That's the big argument right now. When does somebody become alive, right? When does life happen? It says, we don't know. We don't understand how the spirit of God comes into the bones of an embryo inside a woman and makes it alive. How does that happen? What happens with that? It's the same idea. You can't understand everything. You're not going to understand everything, right? So, in the morning, sow your seed, and at evening, withhold not your hand, for you do not know what is going to prosper. Maybe this one or that one. This is still all the same thought. Control your controllables. You don't know everything. You'll never know everything. Things are going to happen that are going to be outside your control. If you let things outside of your control your decision making, well, you're not going to have a very fulfilling life. That's really what it's saying. You're not going to have a fulfilling life. It said, but what you do is those risks you take, you just keep planting seeds here, and planting seeds there, and planting seeds there, and you see what happens, because you don't know what's going to succeed. We all have plans, and we think, this plan is going to succeed, and it fails. And then we try something, and it's like, man, I'm just going to do this for fun. It's not, I don't have any expectations it's going to succeed, and it succeeds, right? We do not know. We just keep planting the seeds and pursuing, right? Know that light is sweet and is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember the days of darkness, that the days of darkness are many, and all comes to vanity. So this is what it's saying. It's better to exist than not to exist. Even with all that stuff that we talk about, seeing the mask that people put on, seeing the everyday, monotony of life, seeing the pain that people go through, right? There's a lot of dark days, but overall it's better to exist than not to exist. And if that wasn't true, then obviously we'd all just go out and off ourselves, right? Why keep existing if life is so bad that it just doesn't make any sense? That's what he's saying. It's better to exist than not to exist. And so because it's better to exist than not to exist, then seek simple pleasures. The sun, being out in the sun, that is a simple pleasure. You can take pleasure in just being out in the sun, sitting by a lake or something like that. These are simple pleasures. These are not things that you need money to do. Take joy in the simple pleasures of life. All right? It says, rejoice, O young man, in your youth. This is a command, right? And let your heart cheer yourself in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. But know that in all things, God will bring this into judgment. So he's saying, man, life is short. So the passage is basically saying, hey, life is short, take some risk. Life is short, diversify. Don't be stupid with the risk you take. Be smart with them. Life is short. Don't worry about the things you can't control. Just control your controllables. Life is short. Take simple pleasures in things. Even with all the terrible things that go on around us, even with all the lies and deceptions of society, take simple pleasures in life. It says, rejoice in your youth. You only get to be young once. The saying is so true. that youth is wasted on the young, right? It's so true, because we waste so much of our youth because we don't know anything, right? But saying, rejoice, choose to be joyful in your youth and walk in the ways of your heart. So explore the world around you. Try to look for things that, while you're, don't just look for the negative, look for the positive in life. Just know that God's going to bring this into judgment. It means your decisions do have consequences. So this is not just, I'm just going to, who cares? Life is worthless. I'm just going to, get drugged up, drunk, all these negative things that causes the body to decay quicker than it should. No, he says God will bring that into judgment. Every decision has consequences. So don't make bad decisions, but make the best of the life you got right now, especially in your youth, okay? Remove vexation from your heart. Put away pain from your body. For youth in the dawn of life are fleeting. Exactly what we just said. So don't always be dwelling on these things that causes sorrow, like seeing things that other people can't see. Realizing we're being lied to. Don't always dwell on that. You can't always dwell on that, right? For youth is fleeting. It comes and it goes quick. So be joyful now. I'm going to skip to chapter 12. We're just going to finish out real quick here. It says, so Solomon comes through all this, and the first part of chapter 12 talks about the process of dying, right? And he says, youth is fleeting. That's the end of chapter 11. Chapter 12 talks about the process of dying. And then this is how he concludes the whole matter. Verse 13 of chapter 12. Let us hear the conclusion of the entire matter, for all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Fear God and keep his commandments. And the fear of God is not a trembling, oh man, I think God's going to strike me with lightning or something like that. It means if God created everything, and again, you don't have to believe this if you don't want to. I'm just saying that for you who want to try to believe in God, this is a great way to start right here. If God created everything, including not just nature, but logic, including things like how treating people, reciprocation, human contact, human connectivity. If God created those things, then there's a way that he wants us to use those things, right? And the more you learn about how God intended things to work, the better off you're going to be, right? The more you learn gravity, God created gravity. Well, the more we learn about gravity, the higher we actually can fly, right? We have planes now because we understand gravity. Buoyancy. We can put huge ships in the water because we understand buoyancy. We're talking about metal ships. How in the world can we get metal to float? And yet we have these huge ships, bigger than buildings, floating on the ocean with huge planes landing on them, right? That's all possible because we understand how God created the world to work. And if God created the material world to work that way, there's also spiritual things that God created. There's ways that we're supposed to talk to each other or to relate to each other. And the more we learn that, fear isn't, oh, God's going to strike me down. It's, oh man, God has a big plan out there, and if I'm not careful, I'm going to miss it. It's the fear of missing out. The fear of, man, if I don't really understand how God intends me to act toward other people, I'm not going to have the best relationships that I can with those people. So, anyways, that's just an add-on to the video here. You can take it or leave it. That's just my 2 cents. I appreciate you guys. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments. Thanks.